Welcome to Secured with Dr. KJ, the podcast where we break down cybersecurity, the technologies driving it, and the companies shaping our digital future. I'm your host, Dr. Kenneth Johnson, cybersecurity leader, technologist, and strategist. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT concern, it's a business imperative. Each episode, we'll explore key topics like cloud security, zero trust, AI-driven defense, and more. We'll assess how tech leaders are adapting, where they need to improve, and what it takes to stay ahead of evolving threats. This podcast features expert insights from security professionals, industry leaders, and technologists, offering real-world solutions to modern cybersecurity challenges. Whether you're a business leader, security expert, or just curious about how technology keeps us safe, this podcast is for you. Subscribe and join the conversation as we explore cybersecurity's biggest challenges, securing tomorrow, one episode at a time. Today on Secured with Dr. KJ, I'm excited to welcome Jerry Davis, a seasoned cybersecurity leader and a 5-time Chief Information Security Officer and Chief Security Officer. With over 2 decades of technology risk management experience, Jerry has held some of the most critical roles in both government and the private sector, including serving as the global CISO for NASA, the U.S. Department of Education, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. He has also served as the CIO for NASA's Ames Research Center and even worked as a counterintelligence officer with the CIA, where he was a part of a team that tracked and brought espionage actors to justice. Jerry's influence extends beyond the C-suite. He has advised the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency as part of the Cyber Safety Review Board, contributed to shaping IT curricula in higher education, and lent his experience to national-level cybersecurity initiatives through the Institute of Critical Infrastructure Technology. His dedication to resilience and thought leadership has made him one of the most respected voices in the field. Outside of his professional life, Jerry is a decorated U.S. Marine, a fitness enthusiast, and an adventurer. Having completed a high-altitude parachute jump from over 28,000 feet, he brings a unique combination of discipline, mission focus, and curiosity to everything he does. I'm thrilled to dive into his experiences and insights today. Jerry, welcome to the show.
KJ, thanks for having me.
Hey, 100%, my friend. And so let's just jump right into the first question. So financial institutions are real prime targets due to the sensitivity of volume of customer data. So how do you architect a security strategy that not only safeguards infrastructure, but reinforces trust with customers and stakeholders alike?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I think for most of us who are in the financial services on some cyber perspective or have been in that sector, when you look at protecting the business of financial services, I think one of the things you have to remember is that I always do is number one is that it's a part of the nation's critical infrastructure, right? So when you talk about economic security from that perspective, so the stakes are very, very high. So there's one thing about moving money and that sort of thing, and the other side of it is about protecting the customers from a data perspective, right? So when you're thinking about looking at an architecture that protects that function, that protects the movement of money, that protects data security, I tend to start with the basics. I start with the basics of number one, sort of what's my security objective, right? So what's my security objective? I got an objective, whether it's protect bank assets, data security, the movement of money. And then I move into what you talk about, like the strategy. So then it's what's the strategy that I need? And then I focus on capabilities. What are my different capabilities that I need that informs and pushes my strategy to meet the objectives? And so those capabilities will get down into things like, the different controls and the different solutions, technical solutions, and your governance and all of that. As it relates to data security and protecting customer information, there's another set of controls that you're going to put in for instance, like privacy controls. You're going to pull in things like that and have a measure of that as sort of the foundation of all your control sets and your strategy and capabilities. So again, it's really just the way I look at it is I start with my objective. I think about the strategy, build in the capabilities, understand what I have, what gaps do I have, what do I need, and then roll out from there and making sure that I'm including on top of security, that the privacy aspects are in there as well. And then again, on top of that, there's a lot of different regulatory compliance materials, guidance materials that help as well. So those help you kind of architect and things that you want to stay in the framework of different compliance activities in the financial institutions.
No, I know you've done this a few times, right? Just everything you just outlined, you've done this a few times, CISO at multiple banks and things like that. And so, like, what are some of the pitfalls, right? That when trying to implement a strategy like this and you have people that are longtime employees there, change I know is hard, right? So nobody wants to see their shiny new thing be taken away because it probably wasn't the right time or it just wasn't the right thing for the environment, of what you're trying to achieve. So what are some of those pitfalls that you fell into, but you were able to then correct it and move forward?
Pitfalls, you name it. They run the gamut of everything. So when you look at executing the role, the job, let's say, of a CISO inside of a financial institution, it's a risk management activity, right? So you have risk of all different types and every flavor that you can imagine. I think some of, depending on where you want to go, you have all these technology risk and pitfalls that you're looking at as well. That's one of the biggest things that you can see when you go into an institution is that the myriad of security solutions that you have. Major pitfalls, and I call it's a pitfall because of the management aspects of it, right? So if you have all these technologies, these protective, these defensive technologies, they have to be managed, right? And often what happens in managing those, it takes a foot army to manage those things. I think on top of that is what that becomes a pitfall because individuals fall into the pitfall of shiny objects, right? So it's like the latest, greatest thing has come out, and we want to grab that without really looking at the business case or use cases. Let's grab that technology and let's put it in here. And then you run into issues like as I said earlier, you don't have the staff to run it, or they're not skilled up to run the technology, or there's integration issues. So, managing your infrastructure could be a huge risk and a huge pitfall if you're not thinking about it strategically. I can tie the pitfall directly back to the first question, right? About strategy and capabilities. It all goes back. You're going for a particular objective. And then if you're not following that strategy, you end up with just all kinds of pitfalls. But that's one of the biggest ones I see is a proliferation of technology that's unmanaged or ill-managed.
So when we think about complexity versus control, right? Like the finance sector, you guys usually lead in security innovation. So, but with that innovation, it really breeds complexity. So how do you streamline the security stack to reduce friction while maintaining rigor required for compliance and control?
Yeah. The way I kind of look at this is tying everything back to the strategy. And you're absolutely right. Financial sector has a tendency to be way ahead of the curve as it relates to innovation and getting out there. But one of the things I think to reduce that complexity is looking at your needs and looking at integration, kind of the way I look at it is I like to look at tools and capabilities and things that integrate well, right? That well integrate, because when you bring in different types, a lot of organizations tend to look at, or CISOs tend to look at, best of breed products. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a challenge to best of breed because they're coming from, you have different manufacturers, different providers, and then you're trying to bring together all these different technologies, different protocols, and that sort of thing. And you get a lot of complexity. You get a lot of complexity with the integration and then the output. So in other words, when I say output, there's a lot of challenges and complexity in synthesizing data, right? So you're bringing in from all these different tools. Now you have to synthesize it. And what always inevitably ends up happening is the data is synthesized by a human. There's somebody that's taking feeds and signals from all these different pieces of technology.
Right.
And you have to sit down at the end of the day and say, okay, what does it all mean now? Because it's all talking different. It's not integrating. So I try to reduce the complexity aspects of it by bringing together technologies on the technology front that blend well together from an integration perspective. It's not always easy. There's pure platform plays out there. More and more providers are going to the platform play.
Right.
But those are the sorts of things that I look at that really reduces the complexity of what I have. Complexity in management, complexities in operational, and by weeding that out, that will reduce a lot of the friction that you have that can be created in the environment.
Yeah, the platform play is a huge play. Best in breed, I totally understand it because there are just some things that, maybe a platform play isn't going to hit, right? And so, but I think we can all get them working together. But I think at the end of the day, it's all about gaps, right? We have gaps in our security posture, and we need to make sure that we're working in concert with all parts of our organization, right? To make sure that we can hit or fill those gaps where they are. So no, totally understand. And I think the thing that then throws the huge monkey wrench into this is AI. Right. So when you think about the regulatory and the reputational and even the operational risks that are converging here, right? How are you leveraging, technologies like AI to proactively detect, assess, and respond to some of those emerging threats before they truly escalate into critical incidents?
Yeah. AI is one of these things. There's been some challenges of late since the rise. I say the rise of AI really just in the last couple of years. Artificial intelligence has been out there for a while, right? It's been out there for a really long time. In the time I spent in the government over at NASA, we were using it years ago. We called them intelligent systems. And now what's happened in the last couple of years, it's become ubiquitous, right? And it's been democratized, so everybody's sort of using it. So getting to your question, it's about, the thing I see the most is kind of like the definition of AI. There's not really anything that's really, it's not well defined in my mind, but let's assume that it is. Let me answer your question. Let's assume that it is. You leverage artificial intelligence. The way I've seen it leveraged in environments, to say on the cyber side today, it's really in security operations centers. That's one of the big areas that we're seeing it being used today, and that's to take the work, repetitive tasks, things that let's say a tier one analysts would look at, eyes on screen. You're using artificial intelligence to do those sort of mundane, repetitive tasks. And also when it comes across, you have whether it's an AI agent or whether it's a full-on AI platform that you're using in a modern day security operations center, it's then kicking off. It picks up on a threat or detects a potential event or an incident. it can now kick off your playbooks, right? So it can kick off your playbooks
Right.
and put in, and start your workflow of response, things to respond to. So that's one area that we're seeing it used quite a bit. Again, in the modernized security operations center, AI is going a really long way, but it is not without its challenges. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just bring
Yeah.
in an AI tool or a platform and just throw it in and let it run off. You got to have some guardrails around it. It's got to be well governed, and making sure that I would treat them just like we treat an individual, meaning that it's got the proper permissions. It doesn't have any more permissions than
Right.
it needs to do its role and that sort of thing. But I would say the one area again that we see it being used a lot is in the modern security operations center. From end to end, we're seeing AI being used more and more.
No, and I love that, right? And so when we think about our socks, right, and how we can help, like we want AI to be able to help those smaller firms, but how can they, help the bigger firms, right, that have the manpower, the muscle, the money to put behind a real cybersecurity team? Maybe not necessarily in a managed way, but you know, I have a few thoughts myself, but I would love to hear from you first before I jump in and say anything.
So the question is, AI. You said for the larger organizations. Um,
For larger, yeah.
yeah, from an enterprise perspective, I
Mhm.
mean, artificial intelligence, to the way as we see it today, it's the way I sort of look at it. It's only limited by your imagination. Like
Right.
if
Yeah.
you if you can think it, you know, you can
Yeah.
build a pretty robust AI platform at the enterprise scale to pretty much do and supplement and augment anything you want it to do. So I don't want to put limits on what it can do. It's really about what you can think. What can you think? Well, how can we leverage it? That goes along the lines of when we talk about artificial intelligence in any environment, it's a tool, and it's a tool to help you do things better, more efficient, and optimize. So, however you can think, wherever you need to do something better, that's where AI can help you. And what I like to think about it is scalable to any side, whether you're small or whether you're large at the enterprise level.
Right.
Artificial intelligence, it can help you. And I'm not giving you a very specific use case because I just think it's limitless. You can kind of use it anywhere. But again, it's all about how you think about it. It
Yeah.
really
No,
is.
I take it back to just the implementation of it, right? Making sure that your data is right, your permissions are correct, right? Because if you don't have those things in house and in order, you're going to get bad information. And I think that's where the misconception comes into play is everybody thinks AI is the magic pill. And you can say, hey, I took the red pill today and now all of a sudden my life is great. But that's not it. You have to look a layer under and you have to get your house in order first.
Mhm.
Then let's talk about the AI itself, right? And what we can do. And that goes to what you said. It's now limitless because you have your house in order, you have the right things, and you have the right prompts moving forward, right? And I think it comes down also to prompt engineering, helping those individuals understand how to provide the context to the AI to actually then say, hey, okay, go back and figure this out and then come back and then you can continue to reiterate and move forward. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I think we have to start with the data, the security, making sure the permissions are correct because we don't want financial data, we don't want HR data in the wrong hands, which can then push a lot of other narratives that we don't want to get into, that we don't want to talk about. But it then goes down to that stuff drives you to the legal folks, and we don't like that. So
let me interject there, KJ. You're absolutely right. Especially when you talk about the data and the quality of the data, no matter what, broadly available public, generative AI tools that are out there today that people are using, they always give you that caveat, right? When you run a prompt, it says, "Hey, this is AI generated. You got to check the data at the end of this. Don't just go at it face value." And one of the things that I've learned about artificial intelligence, especially using it inside an enterprise, is that it can also suffer. Artificial intelligence, LLMs can suffer from, are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger's effect, right? So,
yes, yeah.
As that you know enough to think that you're right, but you don't know enough to know that you're wrong, right? And AI does it can do the exact same thing, right? Because it's learning off of what humans have put into it, right, into the model and that sort of thing. So yeah, data quality has to be of the utmost of importance when you're leveraging these types of tools, because you look at it, if it's not even a little bit off, it could spin an organization, an enterprise around in circles, right?
Exactly, and that's what we don't want in life. So I like moving in straight lines. So, but Jerry, this has been an amazing conversation. I would love your final thoughts just around security in general, what you want the people to know, and also especially in the financial sector. Like, what are your final thoughts there?
It goes back to the larger discussion around artificial intelligence, that it's here. It's not going anywhere. Right. Embrace it. But I would also tell folks to be judicious in how they leverage AI. It can be extremely helpful. It is proven to be extremely helpful, but make sure that we have the proper governance around artificial intelligence. Treat it like it's a human, like anybody else, the way you give them permissions and access to things. And if you do that, and you have good underlying controls and governance around it, that it will work for you in the best of ways. Leverage it.
No, Jerry, that's amazing advice. And I really appreciate the discussion today, and look forward to having you back in a future episode. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks, KJ.
That wraps up today's episode of Secured with Dr. KJ. A huge thank you to Jerry Davis for sharing his insights on building resilient security strategies in the financial sector. From protecting critical infrastructure and customer trust to streamlining complexity and responsibility embracing AI. The key lesson here is clear. Start with a strong objective. Align your strategies with the capabilities. And remember that governance, whether for technology or AI, is a non-negotiable. Thanks again to Jerry and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Until next time, securing tomorrow, one episode at a time.